You know that guy who wears cool hats, travels all over the world for work, and drives a bulletproof car? I should be more clear, the Pope. There have been 266 popes since St. Peter first held the position in the 1st century AD.
I was friends with Jesus.
That's a lot of room for debauchery. One died while having sex with a married woman, one had 2 former popes straight up murdered, and one dug up his predecessor and put him on trial and had someone act as the defense while sitting behind his rotting body.
No, it wasn't me, I didn't do it.
My favorite pope fathered multiple children, became the poet laureate of the Holy Roman Empire, wrote a full-blown erotic novel, and then became the head of the Catholic Church. This is the story of Pope Pius II. Aeneas Silvio Bartolomeo Piccolomini was born in 1405 in the Republic of Siena, where they keep a Saint Severed head in a church, but that's a different story. He was the eldest of 18 children, and one of only 3 who actually survived into adulthood because everyone who lived back then was a really bad parent. Nah. Plague got him. The Piccolomini family was noble, but had fallen on hard times, so until he was 18, Aeneas was basically a farmer with his dad. But he didn't want to be a farmer. He wanted people to like and respect him. And people didn't start to like and respect farmers until like 2009. A great way to gain power in 15th century Italy was to join the Catholic Church. It offered a stable life with all that power and status that Aeneas was looking for. And since the Piccolomini family name had fallen on some hard times, he probably felt some intense pressure from his parents to join up. Maybe it was this pressure, maybe it was the loss of 15 of his siblings, or maybe he just didn't like how he looked in a robe, but for some reason Aeneas was completely uninterested in the Catholic Church. So when he was 18, off he went to university, where he studied law and humanities and learned that he was really good at writing.
Man, I love college.
He used that skill to get himself a job with Domenico Capricana, a statesman and cardinal with the Catholic Church. Cardinals are those guys who are always wearing red and hanging out with the Pope, and when he dies, one of them gets a promotion to Pope. So they're powerful people. And maybe this was sort of the thing that changed his mind on the Catholic Church in general, because he saw how much power somebody like that could have. After kind of bouncing around for a bit, working for different high-ranking church officials, in 1435, Aeneas was sent on a secret mission to Scotland. The mission was so secret, no one even today is sure what he was in Scotland to do. Maybe it was church business, maybe it was personal business, maybe it was Nunya business, we'll never know. What we do know is that getting to Scotland in the winter was awful. The sea was rough, the weather was a nightmare, he puked the whole time. It was so bad that he actually made a vow to God, probably the most serious kind of vow, that if he survived the voyage, he would walk barefoot to the nearest shrine of Mary when they arrived on land, which probably sounded like a good idea until they actually reached land and found out the nearest shrine was 16 kilometers away. That's about 40% of a marathon, and he had to trudge through snow and ice the whole time to do it, but he did it. He walked the whole way without shoes on. God clearly really appreciated it, because he was like, thanks for doing that, man. Here, I actually, I got you something. It's stupid. It's so stupid, but I think you'll like it. Gout. Gave him gout. And that left Aeneas with pain that he would have to deal with for the rest of his life. One other notable thing happened on that trip, and I really tried, but I just couldn't phrase it as succinctly as his Wikipedia page. In Scotland, he fathered a child, but it died. A whole story in 9 words with 2 sources. That's why we go to Wikipedia. I'd tell you to donate to them, but you've probably already said no like 3 times today. Anyway, in Scotland, he fathered a child, but it died. Aeneas spent the next several years climbing the political ladder and working for one powerful guy after another. If LinkedIn had existed at that time, as far as like numbers of connections go, it would have been Aeneas, and then just above him, the plague. He was really well connected. In 1440, he was sent to Strasbourg, where he met a woman named Elizabeth and had another baby. This time, the baby survived, though, for 14 months. Losing another child was probably not super fun for him. I'm an empath. As far as I can tell, he stopped trying to have kids after that, but I don't think he stopped the act of trying to have kids, because his porno novel is still to come. In 1442, his writing earned him the title of Poet Laureate of the Roman Empire, which is such a cool title for a guy who didn't even know how to write a haiku, because they hadn't been invented yet. I can write a haiku, though. You told me there was a pope who wrote a porno. Get to the porno. the porno. The year's 1444, Enea is 39 years old and he releases his novel. When I first heard that there was a pope who wrote a porno, I had some questions. Does it still exist? Yeah, it took me about 2 seconds to find a PDF version of it on the internet. Is it good? No, I didn't enjoy it. It has a 3.49 on Goodreads, so it may as well not exist. What's it about? It follows Lucretia and Euryalus, two people who are in love with each other, but are just too shy to say anything to one another. Pretty much the whole book is them exchanging letters, and they get kinda 15th century heated. For example, when shall I see you again? When again shall I bite those coral lips, or feel again that tremulous tongue murmuring in my mouth? Or ever handle those breasts? The book doesn't get much more explicit than that, though. The standards for erotica have changed a lot in the last 600 years, kind of like how a single gusher would kill a Victorian child. One paragraph of A Court of Thorns and Roses would vaporize this man. Was the book successful? Yeah. It was a hit. It became one of the most popular novels of the 15th century, which is especially impressive when you realize that when The Tale of Two Lovers was released, the printing press would have been celebrating its 8th birthday. Did they use a carriage as a popemobile back then? This question doesn't have anything to do with the book. I'm just curious. Only 2 years after releasing his generation's 50 Shades of Grey, in early 1446, Enea took his holy orders and was ordained a priest. Thanks to all his connections, it didn't take long for Enea to rise up the ranks of the Catholic Church. On the 1-year anniversary of his becoming a priest, he helped lead the election of a new pope, Nicholas V, who immediately turned around and gave Enea a promotion to bishop, which meant he could now move across the board diagonally. He served as a bishop in Trieste and Siena, where they keep a saint's head in the church, until he was promoted to cardinal at the end of 1456. So at this point, he's 51 years old. He's only been a member of the clergy for 10 years. 12 years ago, he wrote a pornographic novel, and he's already reached the penultimate position of power within the church. All he needs is for the current Pope, Calixtus III, to die or retire, and he'll have his shot at wearing that big funny hat. And that shot would come 2 years later when Calixtus III died on August 6th, 1458. Kinda convenient. At this time, the frontrunner for the papacy was Enea's old friend and mentor, Domenico Capricana, but he also curiously died about 8 days after the Pope. With his two biggest papal opponents out of play, it paved a perfect path for Enea to swoop in, snatch that egg hat, and become the most powerful man in the Catholic Church. And I'm not saying he arranged for it to happen that way. Pope Calixtus was 79 when he died, Capricana was about 58, so both were older than the average life expectancy of the time, but it's kind of crazy how perfectly it worked out for him, right? No matter if it was engineered or not, Enea was crowned pope on September 3rd, 1458, and chose the name Pius II. As pope, he dedicated most of his time to one thing: planning a good old-fashioned crusade against the Ottoman Empire. Of course, that wasn't the only thing he did. He had his entire hometown of Corsignano rebuilt and named after him. He declared Catherine of Siena a saint. Oh, and he appointed his nephew to the position of cardinal, even though he wasn't a priest! His nephew actually went on to become Pope Pius III, serving about 27 days before dying of an ulcer in his leg or poison, depending on who you ask. Mostly though, Pope Pius II did his best to unite Europe against the Ottoman Empire, and it didn't really take, which just proves how hard it is to schedule things as an adult, even when you're Pope. He kept trying and trying, pushing copies of his book on everybody, and they were like, it's really popular, we already read it. And he was like, read it again. And they were like, I don't like to reread, I just like the story to be fresh, you know? So that got him nowhere. Eventually, even though he was getting up there in years, he offered to lead the crusade against the Ottomans himself. No one called his bluff, so he did it. He traveled from Rome to Ancona, where everyone was supposed to meet up before riding out and taking on the Ottomans. When he showed up, though, there was no one there to support him. So far in his life, Enea proved he could pretty much do anything he set his mind to. Walk across frozen Scotland barefoot, write one of the most popular novels of the century, become the actual Papa of the Catholic Church. In Italian, the word for Pope is Papa. He's like the dad of the church. For Enea, single-handedly taking on the Ottoman Empire was probably just a bit too much of a task. He was an old man, and he died in Ancona on August 14th, 1464. Hey, if you like this video and subscribe, I'll read another passage from his book. Did you do it? Promise? Okay. At last I have found you alone. At last, as I have so often dreamed, I may embrace you unobserved. No wall, no distance impedes my kisses.